At its height, Disney controlled nearly 40% of the entire American box office. It owned Marvel, Pixar, Lucasfilm, and a broadcast network that reached 90 million homes. No single entertainment company in history had ever held this much creative real estate. Between 2012 and 2023, Disney films grossed over $60 billion worldwide. The numbers were staggering. And so was the silence behind them, because dominance, it turns out, has a price. And someone else always pays it. Disney didn't just grow, it consumed. The Pixar acquisition in 2006 was framed as a rescue, but it was a takeover. Marvel followed in 2009 for $4 billion, a price that seemed absurd until it didn't. Then came Lucasfilm in 2012, and with it, the entire mythology of a generation. Each acquisition wasn't just a business deal. It was a cultural annexation. Independent studios watched these deals and quietly began asking how they would survive. The answer, for many of them, was that they wouldn't. There used to be a film that cost $30 million and told a story about ordinary people. It wasn't a franchise, it wasn't a sequel, it was just a movie. Studios like Sony Classics and Focus Features kept those films alive through the 90s and early 2000s. But when Disney proved that a $100 million spectacle could outperform 10 smaller films combined, the math changed. Theaters stopped booking risk. They booked certainty. Directors like Paul Thomas Anderson and Ava DuVernay found their budgets shrinking or their projects stalled. The mid-budget film, the backbone of adult American cinema, was quietly being buried, not by any single decision, but by the gravitational pull of one company's success. Disney discovered something more powerful than storytelling. It discovered memory. Every live-action remake was a calculated bet that audiences would pay to feel safe. The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Dumbo, Mulan, The Little Mermaid. None of them needed to exist, and all of them made hundreds of millions of dollars. When nostalgia becomes an industrial pipeline, it stops being emotion. It becomes extraction. Audiences weren't being offered new experiences. They were being sold their childhoods back. And the more Disney recycled, the less room there was for anything genuinely new. Inside the Disney machine, even talented directors became a line item in a franchise plan. Edgar Wright walked off Ant-Man after years of development when creative control evaporated. Phil Lord and Chris Miller were fired from Solo mid-production and replaced overnight. These weren't accidents. They were symptoms of a system that values brand over vision. Writers on Marvel Disney Plus shows described scripts rewritten by committee until no original voice remained. The safest creative decision inside the most powerful studio in the world was to take no risk at all, and audiences, whether they knew it or not, could feel exactly that. Disney Plus launched in 2019 with the promise of infinite content and a new golden age. Instead, it accelerated the devaluation of every project it released. Films that would have been cultural events became Tuesday releases lost in an endless scroll. The theatrical experience, a shared ritual a century old, was being dismantled from within. Disney also quietly laid off thousands of employees during its streaming expansion years. 7,000 jobs were cut in 2023 alone, even as executive salaries climbed. The empire that sold magic was ruthlessly, systematically efficient. When one company defines the conversation narrows. Diverse voices in cinema don't disappear overnight. They get slowly crowded out. International cinema, foreign language film, documentary, all of it lost oxygen in the Disney era. Children who grew up in the 2010s have reference points that are almost entirely Disney-owned. A generation's shared mythology, its heroes, its archetypes, its moral universe, belongs to a corporation. That has never happened before in the history of human storytelling, and we still don't fully understand what it means. By 2023, Disney's stock had fallen more than 50% from its pandemic peak. The sequels were underperforming, the remakes were exhausted, and the audiences were restless. Empires don't fall all at once. They fall slowly, then suddenly. What Disney cost us isn't measured in ticket prices or streaming fees. It's measured in the films that were never made, the voices never amplified, the risks never taken. It's measured in the stories we didn't get to tell ourselves. The question now is whether we have the imagination to demand something different, because the next decade of storytelling is still unwritten. And that is either a warning or a gift.